So I'd like to shift gears quite a bit. It's a topic that you've brought up several times over the course of the 8 weeks in some regard. And I wanted to tell you a little story. And that is, when I was about 17 years old, my cousin decided to play a trick on me and his younger brother, who was also my cousin. We were going to a concert, and they made some sandwiches. And little did I know, he put something in that sandwich. He put some mushrooms in the sandwich. And I still recall that very well. I've never done any drugs in my life. But it was a bad experience. I mean, it was a hallucination for about 12 hours, seeing colors, not knowing what was going on, slow motion, crazy. I need to ask you, what is this psychedelics? And I beg your pardon, I'm not too familiar, but I really would like to have your insight and I guess the risks that are involved and the benefits.
Great question. So psychedelics is something that we just started exploring early on in London Real. I think by episode 5 or 10, we were talking about ayahuasca, which is a plant medicine. Probably falls into the psychedelic category. It's been being consumed in South America for, I think, 10,000 years. There's evidence, archaeological evidence, and it's used as a plant medicine to allow you to do some internal healing, to really think about your life in different ways and have some education that won't happen on your own, or it might take 20 years of meditation or psychotherapy to have some of these realizations. I equate it to putting a mirror in front of your soul, and you get to see the way that you've been treating other people and the way you've been treating yourself and the world, and a lot of times it's not good news. And so it's sometimes a difficult experience. It destroys the ego, and by Western standards, we try to build our ego, and that feeling doesn't feel very good because you like your ego and your ego likes your ego. And so this is a way of kind of dissolving all of that in your brain. And that's what psychedelics do. Before I started London Real, I had probably had similar experiences to you. Ate a bunch of mushrooms in Amsterdam because someone told me it was the thing to do. Felt horribly uncomfortable. Hated it. Couldn't wait for it to end. Never wanted to do it again. A bad experience, which is what you probably had as well. Right. Now, that word bad it's all relative. You were basically learning at a rate that you were not accustomed to. You were also not in the correct set or setting, which is what they say. So in my ayahuasca ceremonies that have actually happened in this studio, and I do have to remember that when I leave here, because my second really big ayahuasca ceremony, I was right there on a sofa, and I was with my shaman, and she was singing these beautiful icaros, and I was alone, and I had prepared mentally, and I had done a diet for 10 days, and I was prepared as much as I could have when I went in there, and I was allowed to have that experience. I wasn't in the middle of a rock concert, and I didn't know I knew it was coming. And that's the proper set and setting you should have for any psychedelic experience. That being said, I do believe in infrequent high doses, the same as Terence McKenna would prescribe, who is the now deceased brother of Dennis McKenna, who's become a good friend of mine. And I really love Dennis, and he's an amazing man, an amazing scientist, an amazing thought leader, and we've got more stuff coming out with him soon. And so when you go in for a psychedelic experience, you have to go big, and you have to be prepared to be uncomfortable, and you have to be prepared to learn some things about yourself, and it shouldn't be fun, and you should be a bit scared when you go in. If you're not, honestly, you're wasting your time, because you're probably gonna be told some bad news. You're probably gonna be told, Brian, you're not treating your family good enough, you're not treating your team good enough, you need to think about your content more and think about the people that watch that and try to work harder at making them happy. And it's probably giving me all these lessons that maybe I forgot to think about when I'm working on London Real, the brand. That's probably what it would tell me. And so there's lots of different ways to have these psychedelic experiences. There is ayahuasca, there's psilocybin mushrooms, there's LSD, there's a few others. You can also simulate it, I think, through sweat lodges and other kinds of things. But it's something that humans have been doing to themselves for thousands and thousands of years. And it's something we will continue to do to ourselves. Unfortunately, in the United States, it's illegal in with many substances because of a knock-on effect of what LSD happened. It's a lot of politics. It's a lot of fear. Humans have a lot of fear about themselves. They use this word drugs, which applies to a lot of things. We also hate ourselves because of our vices, and we judge ourselves the same way that America struggles with, say, vices and pornography, and the way that other countries don't. I think America has a kind of a very puritanism about it, where we don't admit that we are these animals that have these urges and needs and these other experiences. So that's maybe a rough idea of the psychedelic experience. So for me, it was important because those ayahuasca experiences allowed me to go deep inside myself and say, why does Brian behave the way he behaves? Well, I concluded that a lot of it came when I was 7, and I was just, I don't know, I got to be a scared boy that wanted to build up walls around me so I wouldn't be hurt again by an event like a divorce. And I think it kept me familyless and pretty much solo for 40 years of my life. That's not healthy. And I wouldn't have learned that unless it was for that plant medicine. And I wouldn't have learned that unless I was willing to go to where that fear is and face the resistance of losing control for 3 or 4 hours. And it's not nice sometimes, and sometimes it's beautiful. It's just very random. And so now I try to get myself into these psychedelic experiences so I can just do a reset and make sure I'm going in the right direction. Because Roger, I'd rather find out now than when I'm 80 years old, or maybe 120 years old, when I'm sitting on my deathbed and realize, it's too late. I made the wrong choices. Yeah. You're still a banker, Brian. Why? You could have done London Real. Or you did London Real, but you went the wrong way, Brian. You got lost. And then why? Or why didn't you spend time with Caden? You know, he's 30 now. You can't go back now. So it's hard and it's painful, but I would rather get the lessons now and pay the price, which is what, 4 hours of a potentially discomfortable situation, and get those revelations. Now, I could get them through the art of listening. I could get them through meditation. I could get them through physical practice. You will get those lessons anyways. But I believe you can get them quicker through these experiences. That being said, I'm not a fan of doing these frequently. Some people drink ayahuasca and they do it every weekend. They smoke DMT every weekend. I don't believe in that. I believe you get the information, you come back to the real world where we all live, where you have to deal with your life, and then you meditate and you work on yourself. You make the changes to enact the things that you've learned with the plant medicines. And they do teach you things and tell you things. So that's my experiences with them, but to each his own. Sure. When you first take ayahuasca, you come back and you think everybody should take it. And you say, that'll fix your problems. I'm over that now. I don't project, but I don't shy away from it. These I'm not gonna say the D word, these medicines should be legal. I envision a time sooner than you think, in say 50 years, where grandma can decide to take a vacation and she doesn't go to Maui. She goes into the country for a weekend and she goes to a spa and she gets given ayahuasca after she has her facial and her massage, and she gets to have an experience and go in the woods, and she comes back 3 days later, a brand new person. We all should have access to this, and doing it in an intelligent, controlled way. It's not a drug. That word is so misused. The war on drugs is a joke. It's a war on certain drugs. It's a war that's about money and capitalism. Right. And you know, how many London Real guests do you have to listen to till you realize what pharmaceutical companies are doing? And Bruce Lipton? No, Michael Greger. I mean, prescription drugs, legal prescription drugs, kill over 100,000 people a year. Legal ones. Yeah. Don't get me started about anything else. And so people that can't entertain these other ideas, again, it's back to the mainstream media. What are you taught? It's a drug. It's illegal, and you don't do your due diligence. You don't look a little bit deeper and say, well, wait a second, who's telling me that? A politician? A policeman? Why do they know? And Graham Hancock here on this very show said, if you do not have sovereignty over your own consciousness, what do you have? I believe we have the right to make choices about our own consciousness. Now, if you want me to obey your laws, that's okay. I won't kill, I won't rob, I won't hurt someone, but I'm allowed to alter my own consciousness. Why not? Now, if I do those things when I'm altered, fine, then that's a crime. But altering my consciousness should not be a crime. Now, that being said, I don't believe Class A drugs like cocaine and ecstasy should be in the pharmacy. I think it's an excuse for a lot of people to consume those, and I think those drugs, they have their side effects, and I think they have some really dangerous long-term side effects. Unfortunately, those are a lot about pleasure, and as we know, pleasure does not result in happiness. A lot of times it's the opposite. You have to really earn your happiness. So I think there's something about certain drugs being illegal, but I think plant medicines and Probably cannabis to a certain extent, although I'm not a user of it. But I know a lot of people talk a lot about it. But obviously in the States, it's becoming legal. But that is more along the lines of a plant medicine. It opens your mind to new thoughts. That being said, that can be abused as well. And so can psychedelics. So again, set and setting. Don't take them at the rock concert. Take them in certain doses and take them for the right reasons. And if you don't want to take them, then don't. But, they are.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, learn from the best minds in the world, and connect with a community of passionate people building the best versions of themselves. Just click on the link below, and I'll see you on the inside.